All right, let's dive into one of the greatest stories ever told. We're talking murder, powerful magic, and a quest for cosmic justice that literally defined an entire civilization.
So here's the crazy thing. What if the most important story a culture ever told was never actually written down in one place? That's the deal with the Osiris myth. It's the foundational story for ancient Egypt, but you can't just go and read it from start to finish. It doesn't exist like that. That means, to get the full story, we have to play detective. We're pulling together clues from all over the place, from ancient funeral texts, from magical spells, from hymns to the gods, even from accounts written way later by Greeks and Romans. Each little fragment is a piece of this massive puzzle. So, let's get into it. First off, you gotta understand just how massive this story was. This wasn't just some bedtime story. You could almost think of it as the cultural operating system for ancient Egypt. I mean, this one story explained everything. Why the pharaoh had the right to rule, the cosmic battle between good and evil, and maybe most importantly, it gave every single Egyptian the hope of life after death. It was a promise that death wasn't an ending, but just a doorway. And like any great epic, it all revolves around one family. You've got Osiris, the good king. Then there's his wife and sister, Isis, who is an incredibly powerful magician. And their whole world is about to be turned upside down by Osiris's jealous brother, Set, and the son they will eventually have, Horus. Okay, so this is where it all goes wrong. The whole story kicks off with a betrayal so shocking, it literally throws the entire cosmos into chaos. And to really get what's happening, you have to understand these two brothers. Osiris is all about maat. That's the Egyptian idea of truth, balance, order, basically everything good. His brother, Set, he's the exact opposite. He represents violence, chaos, the brutal, sterile desert. So you see, this isn't just two guys fighting. It's a battle for the soul of the universe. And here's a really fascinating little detail. You know why you barely find any direct descriptions of the murder? It's because the Egyptians believed words had real power. To write something down was to make it happen, to reinforce its reality. So they were terrified of writing about the death of a god, because they thought it would actually make that negative event more powerful in the universe. Wild, right? But even though they didn't like to spell it out, we know what happened. Set murders his brother and steals the throne. And in the most famous version of the story, he does something truly horrific. He cuts Osiris's body into 42 pieces and scatters them all over Egypt. And that number, 42, is no accident. There were 42 provinces in ancient Egypt. The king's body literally becomes his shattered kingdom. So, the world is in chaos, the rightful king is dead and dismembered, and now the hero of our story really steps into the spotlight. Osiris's queen, Isis. And this is where the myth turns into this incredible story of love, grief, and pure determination. Isis and her sister Nephthys set off on his desperate quest to find every single piece of her husband. Imagine that. And their sorrow was said to be so immense, so powerful, that it became part of the land itself. The ancient Egyptians believed the yearly, life-giving flood of the Nile River, those were the tears of Isis weeping for her lost love. And what she does next is just mind-blowing. She finds every single piece, and with some help from Thoth, the god of wisdom, and Anubis, the god you see with the jackal head, she puts him back together. She wraps his body, creating the world's very first mummy. This act becomes the blueprint for all Egyptian burial rituals. But believe it or not, that's not even her most incredible trick. She uses her magic to turn herself into a bird. She hovers over Osiris's body, and with her wings, she literally fans the breath of life back into him just for a moment. And in that one fleeting, magical moment, she conceives their son, Horus, the son who is destined to avenge his father and take back the kingdom. Now, Osiris isn't back for good. He can't stay in the world of the living. His new role is to become the lord of the underworld, the Duat. He becomes the ultimate judge of the dead. And as for Isis, she has to go into hiding in the swamps of the Nile Delta to protect her unborn son from his murderous uncle, Set. All right, fast forward a bit. Horus grows up. And now, the next chapter of this epic begins. And let me tell you, this isn't some quick, clean fight. What follows is a long, brutal, and honestly, pretty bizarre war for the throne of Egypt. How long? 80 years. Can you imagine? For 80 years, this divine war raged on, with the other gods basically acting as referees. And neither Horus nor Set could get the upper hand. And that incredible length, it's not just for drama. It's meant to show a fundamental Egyptian belief. that the fight to keep order and push back chaos is a constant, never-ending struggle. And the battles themselves were just weird. I mean, they have a boat race, but with boats made of stone. Horus cheats, by the way. He makes his out of wood, but paints it to look like stone so Set's boat sinks. They turn into hippos and try to drown each other. There's a really famous and pretty graphic episode involving sexual assault and magical retaliation. It gets intense. They're constantly mutilating each other, tearing out eyes, ripping off testicles. It is a brutal, no-holds-barred conflict. So, in one of these fights, Set rips out Horus's eye. This eye was thought to be the moon. But later, the wise god Thoth magically puts it back together, he heals it, and this restored eye, the Eye of Horus, becomes one of the most famous symbols in all of human history. It stands for healing, for protection, and for the ultimate triumph of order over chaos.
Finally, after 80 long years, the Council of the Gods makes a decision. They declare Horus the winner. He is the one true king. Set is defeated, and in most versions, he's banished to the desert. The great crime that started it all, the murder of Osiris, has finally been avenged. Balance is restored to the universe.
But here's the thing. This was never just a story. Its meaning, its legacy, was stitched into the very fabric of Egyptian life for millennia.
Think about it. Kingship? Every living pharaoh was Horus, and when he died, he became Osiris. The transfer of power was the myth playing out in real life. Those famous burial rituals? Mummification was based on what Isis did for Osiris. The opening of the mouth ceremony, which was meant to give the dead the ability to speak and eat in the afterlife, that was a reenactment of what Horus did for his father. And maybe the biggest deal of all, this story gave everyone a shot at eternal life. It promised that any good person, not just the pharaoh, could be reborn just like Osiris.
And its influence didn't stop at Egypt's borders. Take the image of Isis nursing her son, Horus. This became a super popular and beloved image all over Egypt. And well, a divine mother holding her miraculous child? Sound familiar? You can see really striking similarities between that iconography and later Christian images of the Virgin Mary and Jesus. So why did this story last for thousands of years? Why are we still talking about it? Because it taps into something so fundamentally human. It's about loyalty to your family, even in the worst imaginable tragedy. It's about the conviction that, in the end, good will triumph over evil. And it's about that deep, profound hope we all have that death is not the final word.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? The Egyptians spent 3,000 years telling and retelling the pieces of this one giant puzzle. So it begs the question, what are the fragmented stories, the myths that we live by today? And if we could step back and piece them all together, what would they tell us about ourselves,